Corbyn.
Such spirit, such energy and such determination to our party, our movement and our society. Thank you for everything you do. Brighton is a city that has given place and space and hope and opportunity to so many. And this morning I was playing table tennis with a group of people. Very badly, I have to say. They taught me a lot. They were young people from Brighton, they were refugees from other parts of the world, they were people who had been up against it. They came together in a spirit of sanctuary, hope and unity to say, if you're a refugee here in Brighton, you're welcome, work with us and we will help you develop your life. I want to say thank you to the people of Brighton for their whole approach to life and support for other people. I have known Martha, who's just spoken, for, well, 2/3 of my life. And she is somebody to me that epitomizes what spirit, principle and determination is about. She came to this country in great difficulty. She lived in great poverty. She had many personal problems and tragedies. But you know, she talks about when we first met in the 1970s. She didn't ask me about anything for herself personally, ever. She was always asking about her neighbours, her community, the racism they faced, the discrimination that they faced. And when the National Front came knocking, when the National Front came organising in the multicultural area I was proud to represent, it was Martha, it was Bernie Grant, it was Diane, it was so many others that came together to say, these fascists and these racists have no place whatsoever. Look at your crowd here, look around you here. What are we? We're young, we're old, we're black, we're white. We're from different countries, we're from this country. And you know what? We're stronger for it. We're stronger for that unity and being together. That's what our rally is about. Yeah. The election campaign showed something very special about this country. We were told, as John said, well, I don't know why he's got a problem about people with grey beards. I really don't. I'm going to have a word with him later on about that. It's outrageous. It's only because he hasn't got one. I tried, but you know, you can't persuade everybody to do everything. I keep trying. He won't grow a beard. So he condemns those of us that have got one. It's outrageous, it's appalling, and I'll deal with it. But he was quite right in what he said. You remember all those experts? My goodness, there were a lot of them as well. All those experts in April that gathered around every late night TV discussion table, every morning radio show to write us off, to write us all off, to write off hope, to write off inspiration, to write off collective aspiration, and said, this election is the end of Labour, the end of socialism, the end of the whole century-long tradition. And they kept on doing that. And they kept on convincing each other that they'd convinced each other to be right. Because they were only ever talking to each other. And so we went out there with a manifesto that said something very, very different. We also went out there with 2 million more people registered to vote, because so many of you took the trouble to get online, get yourself registered, and get all your mates registered as well. Because we were not going to let them take away the hopes of a whole generation by their meanness, nastiness, and austerity-led politics. And we took that campaign out events around the country. I did 100 events myself all around the country, and I tell you what, in the next election we're going to do even more. And we showed something. We showed something, that we have the strength outside Parliament to change things. We showed what the Tories were really about. A party of the rich, for the rich, by the rich, delivering to the rich. That is what they're about. And their manifesto said it all. They actually proposed to threaten pensioners and to take away social care from those who desperately need it. We put that message out there. So we faced up to them, and we faced them down, and we put on 3 million more votes than we achieved in 2015. Those came from people who wanted to live in a better, a different world, and thought that some things we can't afford. People always tell me there's lots of things you can't afford. Well, I know that, absolutely, I do know that. But the one fundamental thing we, all of us, every single one of us here, can't afford is the inequality of our society and the absurd level of riches amongst the minority at the expense of the majority. And that Tory campaign, funded by the billionaires, our campaign was supported by trade unions and by £4 million donated by ordinary people with an average donation of just over £20. Doesn't that say something about where our support came from in this election? They didn't win, they didn't get the majority they wanted, and then they turned up in Parliament and decided that they couldn't pay the nurses, couldn't pay the firefighters, couldn't pay the police officers, couldn't pay the council workers, but there was £1 billion found for the DUP. Now, don't be unkind, please. Ours is a kinder form of politics. There are 10 DUP MPs. Each one of them is utterly brilliant in every way. And they're so brilliant, each one is worth £100 million. Imagine what you could have done with that money.
Yes.
How many student fees you could have paid, how much social care you could have paid, how many schools you could have properly funded, how many hospitals you could have funded properly, how much more you could have done with it. But no, that was the priority. The priority of the Tories was staying in office at all costs. Well, we're challenging them day in, day out. And when we put 2 motions to Parliament, one on student fees and the other on NHS pay, they didn't even dare vote against them. They let them go through unopposed because they knew they were going to lose. 3 months after a general election, what happened to Strong and Stable?
Weak and wobbly.
What happened to